A good man.
It was there and there in all strength about some of the absurdities going on inside the New South Wales Public Service, the wokeness, the diversity quotas, all the rest of it here. We'll show everyone in order what your tweets were, but take us through what you found here.
Well, you'd have to think that the average taxpayer would expect the New South Wales government to recruit the best people for the job, regardless of race, gender and sexuality, and not think that sexuality's got anything to do with doing a good job in New South Wales. Our school results are the fastest falling in the world. We've got massive problems with the economy. We've got 75,000 kids at risk of significant harm who don't get face-to-face contact. I mean, a massive range of government problems. So why would you be employing people on the basis of their sexuality? In the era of Me Too, how does that make any sense? So I asked the government to justify the fact they've set up new LGBTIQ networks in each of the workplaces and departments and agencies of the state government. Why are you doing this, and how does this improve productivity? Because I get a lot of feedback just about every day from Christians and heterosexuals who work for the New South Wales government saying this is divisive and exclusionary. We're left out of all this, you know. They have the unveiling of the rainbow flag and the rainbow cupcake ceremony, and we're left out. So it's divisive and it's not inclusive at all. And they fired back to say a world-class public service reflects the diversity of the community it serves. And I was in the estimates with the treasury bureaucrats, so you think it wouldn't be working on LGBT alphabet stuff, they'd be working on the economic realities we discussed earlier on. And I said, well, if a world-class public service reflects the diversity of the community you're serving, how many homeless people, unemployed, public housing tenants, low-income people have you employed just so you can reflect their diversity? And they said none.
Hallelujah.
And then one of the pointy heads pipes up to say, oh yeah, well, we can talk to them, we can consult with them. I was, well, okay, let's go through that. How many of the unemployed, homeless, public housing tenants and low income have you consulted with? None. So this is just a sham, isn't it?
Absolutely.
A complete and utter sham at the hands of Don Harwin, who's orchestrated this stuff. It's divisive, it drives down productivity, it's a distraction from their real work, and there's a whole bunch of people who are left out. Christians, heterosexuals, homeless people, low income, unemployed, public housing tenants. It's a very, very select group in the alphabet, but if you're the CH part in particular, Christian and heterosexual, it's no go.
Well, I mentioned this when we were going through, you know, we looked at over a month every single word, literally, that had been said on the ABC over an entire month. And, you know, clearly they talked about gender more than they talked about war veterans. They talked about, you know, you name an issue more than other ones. And I made the point then, which I repeat now, which is there's this whole industry of people who want to cut us all up into slivers, but then make value judgments about which slivers matter. Which minority matters? Which minority should we bring into the tent? Which one should we bend over for? Which one should we go out of our way to include? And I would say particularly when you're talking about public housing, low income, homelessness, so many other things that are there on top of...
All left out. And do you know anyone who goes to work as an expression of their sexuality?
Nope. Nope.
Or their race or their gender? I mean, people go to work to do their job. And quite frankly, for a lot of people, they feel it's an invasion of privacy to have sexuality out there on the table because they regard that as a private thing in the home. And they go to work to do their job and they go home and have a private life that involves, you know, all those things that are important to them, but not in the workplace. This agenda, which is the ultimate in virtue signalling, is just one of the most appalling things happening. And it's not just New South Wales, it's right around the country in every public agency.
How awkward was the silence when you asked the question?
Well, I don't know, it's sort of comical, wasn't it? I mean, you know, the economy's melting down, but they've got their rainbow cupcakes to focus on and trying to tell me that they have all these meetings. You know, I don't want to sort of guess where they live, but it'd be a long way from any public housing estate in Western Sydney, and they're making out they're somehow in touch with it. It was sort of comical, really, but sad that so much money, effort and time and productivity is being wasted in this fashion.
But that's the thing. There are value judgments made about which minorities matter, and that's happening deep inside the public service. And even when it gets exposed, don't dare mention it. Don't dare mention it, Troy.
Yeah, look, I think this is a form of identity politics, and I don't like identity politics. I never have. I've written about it, how destructive it is to our unity and cohesion as a community and our shared sense of identity and character and who we are and what we try to be as a country. And if we just start to divide everybody up and say you're no longer an Australian, for example, you are a particular gender, a particular ethnicity, a particular religion, then you start to put values on each of those that some may be worth more than others. It's a very, very dangerous, and it actually can have the impact of fracturing society, and people then will start to think, well, I don't have much in common with someone who is of a different gender or a different sexuality or a different ethnicity. So this is a very slippery slope and a dangerous one for community cohesion, I think.
Well, Karina, the logic, of course, behind the diversity play is that there are huge swathes of government, business, you name it, that were 30 years ago a closed shop to the alphabet, racial groups, all the rest of it here. Well, those doors have been well and truly opened. Discrimination in any form is illegal in every form, but the overcompensation that is happening now seems to me to be, beyond a tipping point where they're making their choices about which slivers matter.
Well put. It's no longer about diversity, it's now about exclusivity. And, whether you belong to a certain group, therefore you might be treated differently. It's not about making people feel comfortable in the workplace, but as you said, dividing people up and causing that division is not good, and propping up certain groups above others, making some employees feel more valued than others. That's not what we want to see in any workplace, certainly not in government, in the public service. We want to see public servants actually doing their job of, being paid taxpayers' dollars to improve our states, our nation, not to be pursuing some kind of activist agenda, which could really only be the agenda underlying these kinds of diversity policies.